Good morning. I hope you're all doing well. Today is Wednesday, and right now I am in the middle of making my husband's dinner. And if you remember, I had showed you how to make stuffed peppers without the rice. Well, I didn't have all the ingredients, but I had some peppers that really needed to be used up before they went bad. So what I did is I went ahead and I browned up my ground beef, and I added, because I did not have any diced tomatoes, well, technically what I added was the mild diced tomatoes with green chilies. So this is going to spice it up a bit for my husband, which he likes it like that. So I added these. And since this was not enough juice, I added some tomato sauce because I had it. And then I decided that, well, I didn't have any fresh spinach, so I put in some frozen spinach. And sure enough, right on the bag, it said how many servings were in there and how much each serving was, so I could figure out what 3 cups would be. And so I added that, and then I happened to have some gluten-free orzo, and so I added that in place of rice. And so that's just all simmering here in this pan and getting nice and hot. If I can show you that, there we go. It's getting nice and hot, and I am just going to, once that's pretty well warmed through, I am going to put it in the oven at 350. Well, of course, I'll have to stuff my peppers first, won't I? And then I'll put it in the oven at 350. So anyways, that's what I'm doing right now. Believe it or not, the sun is shining. There's a very, very light snowflakes coming down. And you wouldn't really say it's snowing. It's just like snowflakes just tapering down, very pretty. But they are calling for this afternoon more snow, and they are actually have another advisory out, weather advisory, for this afternoon, this evening, and all day tomorrow for more snow. So we are really piling up here. When my husband came home from work this morning, he went ahead and he got the driveway and that cleaned up as best he could. That last snowfall was a very heavy, wet snow, so it was a little bit more difficult. The first snow that we got last Thursday, that was just so light and fluffy. You could just, move the snow shovel with your one arm and, it would be done. But not this snow. This is a heavy, wet snow. So hopefully the snow that's coming will not be heavy and wet also, because it just makes for really hard cleanup. But I will talk to you throughout my day, and I hope that you have a very blessed day too. Well, my poor husband did not get to eat the stuffed green peppers, because when I opened up the oven after it had cooked for 25 minutes and I went to test them, the glass pan exploded and just totally broke everywhere in the oven. So I was talking to my son when it happened on the phone. I was on the phone talking to my son. I was like, I'll call you right back. He heard it. He was like, oh, that didn't sound good. And I said, I'll call you right back. So my husband and I got all that cleaned up, and when I called my son back, he's like, you can't eat them, right? You're not gonna eat them. No, I'm going to throw them away. But luckily there was, because I only had 1.5 peppers, so it's supposed to make 6 peppers, 6 halves, I should say. So I had a lot of the meat mixture still. So he got that, and I made some coleslaw, and he had it with some crackers. Not exactly the same, I know. Hey, life happens, right? Today I decided I'm going to make my lemon bread. This is another tradition for me to make lemon bread. Oh my goodness, I think you have to go back probably 35 years that I've been making lemon bread, and it used to be really rather expensive because lemons used to be expensive. And it was really at that time of my life with a little one at home, I just couldn't afford lemons. But at Christmas time, I would always, buy a couple of lemons and make this lemon bread. And it is very, very good. The only substitution that I am making today is, of course, I'm going to be using the 1-to-1 gluten-free flour. But other than that, the recipe actually calls for walnuts, and I do not use walnuts. I use pecans because they're just a milder nut, and I like them better. So, anyways, I thought maybe you'd like to see how I make lemon bread. It's actually not expensive now because lemons aren't expensive. It only takes 2 teaspoons of the rind, so that's either 1 large lemon or 2 small lemons. Rather inexpensive actually now. But you just cream and your butter and sugar together, and that's what I'm going to do now, and I'll show you the rest of it. So now what I have in here is 2 cups of flour, 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and a teaspoon of salt. And it said it's sifted together. I'm not sifting it together. I just mixed it up really well, making sure that the baking powder and the salt is mixed in there good. I also sprayed my pan because it said to grease the pan. And I'm sorry I have to have the vent on for the stove because since the peppers, the glass pan shattered in the oven, some of the juices must have gotten to the bottom of the stove, and it kind of smoked a little bit and was smelling, and I did not want the smoke alarm to go off while Rick is sleeping. So that's why I have the fan on. It's not smoky in here, but I can smell like a little bit of burning, but it's just on the bottom. So anyways, what it says to do now, it says to add my eggs and my lemon peel to the sugar and butter. So I will go ahead and add the lemon peel. I've already measured this out, and actually it's a little bit more, but I'm not going to waste it. And it takes, I believe, 2 eggs. Let me look here, make sure I'm doing this right. Yes, 2 eggs. And then I'll just go ahead and I will beat this together so that it's nice and creamy. And I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, this looks really rather creamy. Hopefully you can see in there. It's really kind of whipped up well. So what it says to do now is to alternate your flour with your milk. You hear Missy? Quiet, quiet, there's nothing there. Do you remember I told you that there was an orange and white cat? Well, I have not seen this cat in a couple weeks, and so I really didn't think much, but yesterday on the way home from work, Rick told me that he had left a bag of garbage out on the other side of the patio out here in the driveway that he forgot to take care of, and he just left the garbage bag there, and that there was a cat digging through the garbage. And I said, what color was the cat? And he said, orange and white. And oh. So you know what, I am going to go and buy myself a little bag of cat food, and just to see if he's feral or if somebody dumped him. I don't want to see him die. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dump my 1/4 cup of pecans into this and give it a nice stir. And then we'll go ahead and we'll put this into the prepared loaf pan there. and you bake it at an oven at 350. And earlier I told you that the green peppers were to be cooked at 350. That was a mistake. I don't know why I said that. The green peppers were to be cooked at 425, which is a hot oven, and which is probably why the glass pan broke. 350, glass is fine. Let me push this out of the way so you can see this. So yeah, we'll just move it here to even it out throughout the pan and stick it in the oven. And actually this cooks for 50 to 55 minutes, and it says, well, it says until done. Not sure what that's supposed to mean. So I will let you know what that looks like when I take it out. And after it cools, while it's still in the pan actually, you're to take some powdered sugar, or no, granulated sugar. 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar and 2 teaspoons of the lemon juice from the lemons that you got the rind from, and mix that together, and you just pour that on the top, and it even goes down in between the pan and the loaf, so it just kind of like coats the whole thing. It is absolutely dreamy. Well, Mindy stopped running as soon as she saw me with a camera. That is so typical. She likes to pose for the camera. But they were running around and they were playing. As you can see, got a lot of the driveway opened up and plowed for the pups to have a lot of space to run in. And he's actually, I don't know if it's going to show up or not, but he's actually made pathways that come around like that. And then over here on this side, come in like that. And it goes back behind the shed. And he also brings it over across so that they have actually places to run, because they just have a really struggle, especially with this snow, because it is so heavy. They might be able to run around on the top of it for a while, and then they'll just sink right down in and get stuck. And yes, we've had to rescue dogs out of snow drifts before. It's very quiet out here, and it hasn't stormed yet, but the skies are gray. I mean, really gray, if you can see. It is very gray. And the sun was shining really bright earlier. Good evening, everyone. I hope you had a very nice Wednesday. Mine was another quiet day. Oh, mainly because just of all the snow. But I am baking. I'm getting my Christmas baking done so that I don't have to worry about it the week leading up to Christmas. I'll be all set and ready to go and be able to just enjoy that entire week doing what I'd like to do, which I have no idea what. But I did want to read you something that I found kind of extraordinary, considering the way the world thinks now. And that is found in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 30. And it says, "If I must boast, I will boast in the things which confirm my infirmity." And the Amplified Bible puts it this way: "If I must boast, I will boast of the things that show my infirmity, of the things by which I am made weak and contemptible in the eyes of my opponents." Kind of an interesting way of putting that. I thought that in today's world, no one likes to show their weaknesses, because that's what Paul is actually saying. In fact, that's another way of putting that verse is, if I must boast, I will boast in the things that show my weaknesses. We don't like showing our weaknesses. I know, sometimes I don't want to show my weaknesses, but I have many weaknesses. And most of us don't see anything really good coming out of our weaknesses. In fact, we're most likely to hide our weaknesses from others and even from our own spouses sometimes. Yet, in God's hands, our weaknesses can be a source of blessing. Because, you see, without weaknesses, you would have no reason to lean on God's strength. You'd have no reason to ask for forgiveness. You would never need to ask Him for anything, really, because you wouldn't have any weaknesses, which means you have the strength to get through this life, right? All on your own. And in turn, we would never glimpse the attributes of our wonderful God. See, an admission of weakness is a source of genuine humility. It's a humility from the heart. Your own ability to recognize your weakness enables you to empathize with others' frailties. You can help them to overcome as a fellow traveler on the same road down this world. The more you think about all you have gained and learned and understood only because you can admit to being weak, the more you see just how strong and how beautiful and how uncommonly blessed you really are. Emily Barnes says this. She says, God has put into each of our lives a void that cannot be filled by the world. We may leave God or put Him on hold, but He is always there, waiting for us to turn to Him. And that's beautiful. And Elizabeth Ann Seton said this: we know that God gives us every grace, every abundant grace. And though we are so weak of ourselves, this grace is able to carry us through every obstacle and difficulty. So with that, I will leave you. And remember, life happens, so let's enjoy it. And in your weaknesses, God will demonstrate His strengths. And in your weaknesses, humbly bow before God, and He will help you, and He will be the strength for whatever it is you need. Good night. God bless.